Hello, welcome to the series about Rugby League show. I'm Will Jackson, your host. Joining me today is Peter Smith of the Yorkshire Evening Post, and we've got Sam Cook and Sam Brocksom of Series About Rugby League. Just before we get into it, can I ask you all to like this video and subscribe to the channel? Really helps us out, and it keeps us bringing you these videos. So look, round 6 was another intriguing one, it's fair to say. There were wins for Castleford Tigers and Huddersfield Giants, which I don't think anyone saw coming. Hull KR beat St Helens on Friday night. Hull FC won yesterday against Catalan. Wakefield Trinity and Lee Leopards got over the line, and Leeds Rhinos edged out Warrington Wolves on Super League's 30th birthday. Before we get into round 6, though, I think we need to touch on the big breaking news, which it was reported last week, but then was confirmed over the weekend, and that was Willie Peters will be leaving Hull KR at the end of the 2026 Super League season to go to the NRL and take over Papua New Guinea Chiefs. It brings an end to his 4-year stint in charge of the Robins. Obviously, he's won everything there is to win. It's fair to say he's made his mark on East Hull, isn't it, Sam Cook?
Yeah, I'm not sure any Hull KR fans will have expected that when the appointment was made. Obviously, I think he actually lost his first game, which was a friendly, 28-0 to Featherstone, but then backed it up with a win over Wigan in round 1 of Super League, which I think that was kind of shows, it shows straight away that there was something there. And obviously, I think credit probably needs to go to those before him. Tony Smith obviously kind of got Hull KR going in the right way, but Willie Peters has taken them to complete new level, and silverware just wasn't something that Hull KR were really known for. Obviously, it was obviously back in the 80s, and I think the fact that they got there and they got the Challenge Cup final on the first year, I think just the setbacks along the way kind of made it all the more impressive. I think a lot of teams could fold quite easily when you have those setbacks. Obviously, the 24 grand final loss as well, and I think last year you just saw the culmination of all those years of work where they built a squad that just would not be defeated. I think we saw a bit of that again on Friday night. I think that's now on the players, and the players are they'll love him, and I think they're gonna now play for him and try and send him out on a high with some more silverware. And I think that's kind of makes Hull KR, obviously, yeah, they're only on 4 points so far, and bar Friday night they've been a bit iffy, but I think now you'll see a different Hull KR. I think the galvanising effect on the players that decision is going to have will be massive. They all love him. They all want to send him out the right way. I think they probably will. I'm not saying they're going to go do the treble again, because they've already found out how hard it is to back up. But I think what you're going to see now is it's going to be just a different sense of Hull KR. It's going to be that same sort of grit as last year, but obviously there's added spark to it, and I think he obviously massively deserves it. He's made no, sort of secret of the fact he wants to go to the NRL, and getting a project like PNG where he can build it from the ground up, which, is similar to what he's done with Hull KR. He's transformed them from, they made a couple of semi-finals and, kind of taking part awards to genuine contenders and obviously winners. And I think that's what he sees in the PNG project, and that's probably why he's chosen that over any other potential jobs, including obviously the England one.
Yeah, Sambi, he's earned his shot, hasn't he, at the NRL after 4 years in England?
And I think you can kind of say that because he's been linked to nearly every NRL job going over the last 12 months. Newcastle, Manly of late, and now PNG. And he's finally got that PNG role, NRL role, which is he's kind of set out his desires to have, and he's achieved that. And as Sam said, I think he's going to be a perfect fit for PNG. And yeah, it's just a reward for Willie Peters of what his success has been at Hull KR, and it's kind of reflection on Super League as to where all the coaches want to be in the NRL, which it's the superior competition, and Willie Peters has got that now. And the NRL's newest team, he's got a full year to prepare and build his squad and get PNG off the ground. And he's sent a message to the PNG fans after his announcement saying he wants to build a community with the PNG people and continue to grow PNG Rugby League. And I think Willie Peters is the perfect man for that job. You know, he's built Hull KR to be this, you know, juggernaut of a Super League side. And I think if things go his way, he can certainly do that with PNG.
Yeah, Pete, Sam mentioned it a little bit in terms of the impact this could have now on Hull KR for the rest of the season. Do you see it having a galvanizing effect on the squad and the staff there, or could you see it? Could you see their season going off the rails a little bit? I mean, we saw a little bit on Friday. Obviously, they battered St Helens, but you know it's a long old season still.
Don't know. I'll answer that question in 10 weeks' time. It could go either way. We've seen both things happen in the past. I remember back in 2007 when Tony Smith and Sam was leaving Leeds, and it pulled them all together, and they went on to win the grand final. But it could have the opposite effect. It could have a demoralising effect. You don't know. Just have to wait and see. Hull KR is certainly good enough. There's shown enough character over the past couple of years to not bounce back, but to handle setbacks like this. But players as individuals, you don't know how close they are to the coach. They obviously like and respect him, but vulnerable about their futures, that can go either way as well. It's just one of those, you have to wait and see, really. As we've spoken about on this show in the past, it's very hard to defend a title. They're up there to be shot at every week. That's going to play a part as well. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I do think it's a good appointment for PNG. I think well done to him. And as Sam B said, it's credit to Super League, really, that clubs in the NRL are looking at players and coaches in this competition. They must be doing something right. I think the World Club Challenge win probably played a big part in getting the job. He's bound to be ambitious to go back to the NRL, although he's not gone back to Australia as such. It is the best competition. It is the peak, and where everyone will want to test himself. But he's proved his capabilities in England, and he's earned the shot. Good luck to him.
Yeah, well, we know what's next for Willie Peters, but what's next for Hull KR? Obviously, they've got 3, 4, 5 months now to try and find the right man to succeed Willie Peters. Sam C, where do they go now, Hull KR?
Yeah, I think, like you said, the fact they've got time's a big advantage. Because I don't think there's necessarily glaringly obvious candidates. Obviously, a lot of time you'll recruit internally, but Ian Watson is only freshly new to the setup, and obviously what he did at Salford was good. And I think whilst at times with Huddersfield it was good, how he ended at Huddersfield wasn't inspiring as such. And I think obviously you look at Danny Ward, but he's now back down in London. I think he's probably one of those these years next off the rank for a Super League coach, but he's probably just going to wait out Jason Dimitriou's exit at London, you'd assume. So I think within Hull KR, obviously Luke Gale's there as well, but I'm not sure how ready he is for Super League coaching. Danny Maguire's obviously got a bit of a tie to Hull KR, so is that an option? But I'm not sure. I think it's because of the level of success that Peters has taken Hull KR to, they probably want someone who can just slot straight in and kind of keep replicating success. And I think that's where it becomes really hard, because there aren't many coaches of that sort of caliber. So it could be a case where they do look overseas. And Anthony Seabell's just left Manly. Not sure what sort of interest he has in coaching Super League, but you'd think that it may be a while before he gets another NRL shot. So do they field interest there? I think it's a hard question, but it's also a really difficult or really important appointment, should I say. So I think they'll take the time, and I think they express within their statement the gratitude that Peters has kind of, decided early, so they do have plenty of time. Even before, obviously, the announcement, they'll have probably known internally that he was going. So they've maybe already had, a couple of weeks to a month head start on this. And I think they were well aware of Peters' interest to go back down under. So I don't think this is a shock to the system for him. So I think there will be plans in place. It's just you kind of got to sell that plan to the fans. They've kind of got the buy-in from Hull KR fans is what's made this Hull KR team so special. You look at, I mean, they have obviously been well supported before, but never as well supported as they are now, and that's what winning will do for you. But that's also what a coach who connects with the community will do for you, and I think that's kind of an element they've got to get right. You put in someone who doesn't necessarily get what Hull KR are about as a community, then I think you see, those attendances start dipping, and the goodwill isn't necessarily going to be there. So I think it's a really difficult point, but I would say the fact that they do have 5-6 months to sort of stew over it is massively important.
Yeah, Pete, I just want to touch on another head coach that might be heading back down under, and that's Brad Arthur. Can you just tell us what he said yesterday in his post-match press conference after beating Warrington?
Yeah, he said, "Stop asking me about it." Basically, he gets linked with every NRL job that opens up. He was linked closely with PNG. He's been linked with Manly now, and I think he's fed up with the speculation. And he sort of suggested it was a bit disrespectful to Leeds to keep banging on about it. Obviously, it's of interest. He is going to get asked by the media, but he didn't give anything away. He's got, as I've been posted in the past, he's got until June to make a decision on next year. For the first time, he revealed the actual date, which is the end of June 30th, to make a decision. But then he's obviously, he wants to go back to the NRL at some stage. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But I think he's heartwarming for a project at Leeds, and I think that's also a big pull through to see the group at their own age. He wants to win something with Leeds. He's happy at Leeds. He likes the club. He likes the people. He likes the fact that he's out of the spotlight, the intense spotlight that's on coaches in the NRL, who wander around Leeds and people say hello to him, but he doesn't get that fooled. He's not under in front of their power surveillance by the media. He likes that aspect of it. I think he'd be very helpful either way, to be honest. If you get an NRL offer, I'm sure he'd go. Work, I think, would be perfectly and be satisfied to stay in the Eagles and try and take wins to the next level. Then giving court like they're not that far off. Maybe Williams and Tom's took the shit without the already. But they are making progress. A great deal of that was down to Brad Arthur. And I think he'd like to see an end product of that. It's one of those, isn't it? He's been out of the NRL for a couple of years now. Might be hard for him to get back with wonder coaches, people like Willie Peters, come here up on the rails. He's for a good at Leeds. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't stay. I wouldn't be surprised if he did stay at Leeds for a couple more weeks at least.
Yeah, well, the sooner he makes that decision, the better for Leeds, because this is 2 years in a row now that he's been date setting and leaving things late. Leeds need some sort of stability going into next year and to be able to plan, don't they?
They do, yes, but there's this June the 30th date. I think that gives them plenty of time to plan for next year. They're already looking at signing players for next season and at what their plans are going to be for 2027. Obviously, there's going to be some change because a lot of players are leaving. Most of them going to the NRL, to Perth. There will be a little bit of rebuilding to do, but I think the date that they've agreed between them by midsummer gives them enough time to plan ahead if Brad Arthur does decide to go. My feeling is that if he doesn't get a gig somewhere else, I think Jamie Langley could very well be Leeds' next. The assistant could well be Leeds' next coach. I think they'll look to build on and carry on the work that Brad Arthur's done. But as I say, I wouldn't be surprised if that decision doesn't have to be made for a couple more years.
How involved is Brad with the recruitment going on for next season? I know Leeds obviously have a recruitment team, but how is Brad Arthur still having the final say on those signings?
Well, I think he will. If you ask him about signings, he'll always refer to the sporting director in Blease. Ian Blease is the guy that does the deals, but obviously it's in consultation with Brad Arthur. Brad Arthur's a real rugby league man. He knows the market. He knows who's available in the NRL. He watches every game over here. He has a big say in it. But it's a sort of a combination of him and Ian Blease. Obviously, the salary cap is an issue, and they have to take that into account. That's sort of Ian Blease's job to fit players into the salary cap. But if Brad Arthur suggests someone and they can afford him, then they'll go for it.
Yeah, Sambi, what's the consensus among the Leeds Rhinos fan base at the minute about Brad Arthur, and would they like to see him stick on for next year?
I think certainly they would. I think after Rowan Smith kind of came in and got onto that grand final in 2022, things kind of just went downhill from there, and his tactics especially didn't go down well with the fan base. And then Brad Arthur's come in, and I think barring maybe Hull FC last week, the discipline from Leeds has been vastly improved. They were a little bit better against Warrington this week, and I think Brad Arthur's style of play and the way that he kind of galvanizes his team and has built this team to be kind of contenders once again, it's gone down really well with the fan base. I think, especially when they get on a winning run, as with any coach, when they get on a winning run, that kind of hype and want of Brad Arthur to stay is certainly there. They always sing the song, 10 more years, Brad Arthur, and I think that kind of contracts the way it kind of, I think it goes both ways, because obviously if you win in and people obviously want you to stay, and then but if you're losing as Leeds have the past 2 weeks firing Warrington, you then got fans kind of wait, why is he waiting on a decision if is that decision then causing uncertainty within the group, and is that why the reasons for the losses? But yeah, I think on the whole, the majority of Leeds fans will want Brad Arthur to stay. He's certainly been arguably the best coach since maybe Brian McDermott left. And I think, yeah, if Leeds can pull some wins together and kind of, but build on this Warrington performance after kind of 2 weeks of subpar efforts, I think Brad Arthur will be a wanted man to stay in the South Stand crowd.
Yeah, let's move on to another bit of big news then that emerged over the last 4 or 5 days, and that was Roger Tuivasa-Sheck joining Wakefield Trinity on a 2-year deal. It was announced on Friday evening. Sam, that's a colossal move for Wakefield, isn't it? But massive for Super League as well.
Yeah, I think what's going on for the reaction. Obviously still very, very, very good player, but you look back just a few years and he's probably one of the best players in the world. I think obviously you look at just how have Wakefield managed that. That's not a slight on Wakefield now, but if you a slight on what Wakefield were and how the transformations gone under Matt Ellis. I think the credit that he deserves for breathing new life into a club that were on the way out of Super League, and you've seen often how hard. It took how many years to Bradford. Widnes have never got back. Like it is hard to get back into Super League, and I think the way he's come in and sort of galvanised that club, it's obviously got a fan base there. Like you see them turning out now, and I think that's the story here more so than him signing. Obviously, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck is a monumental signing for Super League, but the fact it's for Wakefield as well. It's not just he's not going to a Wigan, a Leeds, St Helens, one of those traditional big clubs. I think the fact that it's at one of those other clubs that makes it all the more interesting. I think for Wakefield, it's really exciting because also once you get one, then you can get multiple. You know, obviously they've signed him off the back of, you know, I think a bit of work's been done behind the scenes with Jasavanga, obviously a teammate of his at Samoa international level. I think you kind of, previously when, you know, overseas signings would come into Wakefield, you know, all the reports going back would have been, oh, it's this, it's that, it's not up to standards. And I think now the talk that's going back to the NRL when they're looking at recruiting is, yeah, come join, it's great. It's a really good place. And I think they're a blueprint for everything that, you know, Super League clubs should aspire to be. Obviously, you know, you'd like to see a lot of money going into the youth system, but they've got some of the talents they've got coming through as well. Obviously, Harvey Smith's there. And I think the goal now is for all Super League clubs to sort of have that balance between, yeah, okay, we can make big splash signings, but we can also, you know, really invest in our youth. And I think if you see, you know, a template going forward, that's the kind of one you want to be following. And I think what Wakefield are doing, obviously, I think Darryl Powell's like the perfect man for that project, really. We spoke a couple earlier about coaching appointments, but the way that he gets that team going is so important. I think wherever Tuivasa-Sheck plays, you assume if he's coming over, he's going to play fullback rather than on the wing, but wherever he plays, I think it's a massive signing. I think Wakefield, for this season already, are exciting to watch. They've not particularly played brilliant, yet they're grinding out wins, and I think if they can keep doing that, then they're going to be a playoff team come the end of the season, and then, if anyone who wants to do the playoffs, anything can happen. So I think all the signs are really positive coming for Wakefield for 2027.
Yeah, Wakefield already have.
It's worth pointing out. Some saying that it'll encourage maybe more people to come to Super League. We had a former Super League player talking earlier in the week, Elijah Taylor, basically saying, don't go to Super League. It's terrible. Everybody's, all the players are on PEDs and you have to play 5 games in 14 days.
Yeah, well, I mean, that 5 games in 14 days was unfounded, and I think basically just eradicated a lot of his argument. I mean, he can make whatever argument he wants. I think he went to obviously Salford, which, you know, maybe at the time they were better run, but they weren't exactly a well-run club back then. I think obviously he went to Oldham and you've seen financial issues there. I think that needs taken with a pinch of salt a little bit, but I appreciate the point. But I think generally feedback from more specifically, I was talking about feedback from Wakefield. I think it's getting good. I mean, people used to say about the changing rooms either only cold water or, you know, they're like just not up to standards. And I think the way that club's transformed is just so impressive. And I think they're a club who can attract players. Maybe other clubs won't be able to, but for now, Wakefield are definitely on the up.
I think it's also, well, if you don't mind me interrupting, it's also worth pointing out that you don't get too many Super League players with their own YouTube channel. Wakefield wanted to announce the signing on over the Easter weekend, but Roger Tuivasa-Sheck has his own YouTube channel and announced it himself, just took it upon himself to announce it last week. So he sort of forced their hand, but that shows the sort of player they're getting in terms of off the field. He's got a big presence, and I think we need people like that in Super League. He's 32, he's coming towards the back end of his career, obviously, but he's still a very good player. He's playing for the All Blacks as well. He's got a big appeal off the field as well as on it. He'll create a lot of interest at the start of next season. He'll be mobbed at all the media days, and there'll be a huge amount of interest in his debut. It's just good for the competition. The more players with that quality we can get over here, the better. I think it's great for Wakefield that they've been able to pull it off, and it's great that players like that are cleared to Super League.
Yeah, Sam mentioned that he believes he'd be coming over to play fullback. Now, Wakefield already have Josh Rourke, and they have, help me out, who's the one?
Jowett.
Yeah, Max Jowett, yeah. He's been playing on the wing for New Zealand Warriors. Obviously, he can play centre as well. Sam B, where do you see him playing?
I think if he comes over, he has to play fullback. I think you can't have a player of that quality and just stick him on the wing. All due respect to any wingers. But yeah, I think he'll come over and play fullback. You know, Darryl Powell's had this selection issue between Jowett and Rock all season, and I think RTS kind of solved that. And kind of two birds in one stone. You're bringing over this marquee player, and you're also filling your fullback solution. And you know, if it is fullback, and then you know Max Jowett is probably goes to backup, and Max Jowett has been a brilliant servant for Wakefield. You know, he's stuck with them. You know, from his debut, I think around 2016, 2015, that kind of era, and stuck with them throughout. And you know, he's been a great servant to the club. But when you get the opportunity to sign someone like that, I think that the loyalty and kind of that goes out the window, and RTS just kind of comes in and he kind of demands the number one spot. But yeah, you know, if he is played on the wing, then you know we've seen like Mike Acebo scoring 14 tries in 6 matches. He'll certainly still add something to the competition, and will still be one of the league's best players. But I think just on the signing as a whole, you know, the marquee spot and the salary cap was brought in for this reason. And you know, if every Super League club can get a marquee player on the level as RTS, and Super League will be a vastly different competition and better for it. But yeah, in the answer to the question of where will he play, I do think he'll play fullback.
Okay, let's move on to the biggest shock of round 6, and then that was Huddersfield Giants beating league leaders Wigan Warriors. Sam B, sticking with you, you watched that one for us. How did that happen?
Yeah, I don't think anyone in the crowd kind of thought that could happen at 2:30 on Saturday afternoon. But you know, it's incredible what a settled spine, well, not settled, but a first choice spine can do for you, innit? And you know, Luke Robinson, I think he was pictured at the Siddle, his former amateur club, at the weekend watching that game, and yeah, he'll have a bit of be a bit of pill to swallow, won't it? You know, the week after that he gets sacked, his first game, his first choice spine all come back and they all play brilliantly. And you know, Niall Evans, Adam Clune both scored tries on return. Adam Clune was supposed to be subbed off about 10 seconds before his try, but he said to the coaching staff he's going to stay on, and then ended up finishing off a great team move. And yeah, I just think if they we've said it all the time with Huddersfield, if they can get those injuries, you know, on the field and play the spine, especially playing well, then there's no doubt that they can improve. But yeah, for Wigan, I think maybe some teething problems with, you know, you've got Hodkinson and Jack Farriman in the spine. Obviously, no Bevan French and Jai Field. And I think them two very young players, very inexperienced players. Obviously, Farriman's got a little bit more experience than Hodkinson, but still not enough that he's at the point where he can control a team. And I think in the long term, this game will kind of be a learning curve for both of them players. And you know, it's kind of the first major defeat. But yeah, I think they'll learn from it, and I think they'll be better for it. And maybe it's kind of a reality check for Matt Pete and Wigan, just to say that all right, you can be league leaders, but you've got to go into every game, you know, fighting for it and wanting to win. And Huddersfield just wanted to win more on Saturday, and I think that's kind of the key message.
Pete, how do you compare? I mean, we're 6 rounds into the season now. We've already got 2 massive shocks. How does this one compare to Hull KR York in round 1 for you?
I don't think that quite the same level as the Hull KR York one, because York were newly promoted, Huddersfield are an established Super League side, and we know that they've got good players. But yeah, it's bottom beating top, isn't it? It's a huge shock. Nobody saw it coming, or possibly nobody saw it coming. I think the timing of Luke Robinson's departure's interesting. If Huddersfield did want to make a change, they wouldn't have been able to do it this week, would they, after winning at Wigan? I think maybe they saw that players were coming back and that performances might improve, and they thought, well, we need to make a change last week on the back of another poor result, the poor defeat, rather than maybe wait until some players come back and inevitably performances improving. I don't know. I think it's a shame for Luke Robertson, because it would have been good to see what he can do with a full spine out and with a stronger team. But obviously Huddersfield decided they wanted a change, and the players have shown what they're capable of. It's not just the spine. The ones who haven't been playing well under Luke Robinson need to look at themselves, I think, and answer the question, why weren't we playing like this a few weeks ago? But yeah, huge shot. I think it raises question marks about Wigan aren't the same team without Frenchy Field. You've seen that before. We saw that last season. They were very fortunate to beat Huddersfield last year in a game where I got cheese with. I think teams where it's the fancy their chances against them while those two are missing. Do them very both playing, but not so much when they're not. It's good for the comp, especially your Warrington moves in as well. The 200% records are gone. The 100% in at the bottom of the table. The losing run was gone as well. And the Cranton, everybody's got not at least one drain and at least one defeat. That's good. It shows the competition's competitive, and what you want in any competition is uncertainty of outcome. And we've got that. So a good one, good for the Tom. That's the would be any long-term harm, as Sam says it. It still have to use it as a law. But they want pension
Yeah, it's definitely worth saying that Jai Field is due back in a couple of weeks, I think. Obviously, he had his appendix out at the start of March, so he's missed a full month. And they've got St Helens next, so we'll touch on that in about 5 minutes or so. But I just want to get Sam C to give Castleford Tigers some flowers as well. Obviously, they were humiliated last week at Warrington Wolves, but they bounced back with a huge win over Bradford Bulls on Thursday night.
Yeah, I've been critical of Bradford Castleford's recruitment. I don't think they recruited where they needed to in the pack. I think a lot of what they've signed elsewhere has been very good, but I thought they needed a bit of go forward in the pack. But I thought the pack turned up on Thursday night. I thought they weren't the only ones. I think there was a whole team performance. I'm not sure you could pick many Castleford players who didn't turn up. I think Christian Mapapalangis hits the headlines. I mean, obviously, Jason Garigari scores the hat-trick, but I think he's had 3 not quite put up on the plate because he did have to do a lot of work still. But I think Mapapalangi, like the way he moves and the way he engages defenders is honestly just so impressive to watch. I think he's harsh on Castleford, but he just seems far too good for them. He seems far too good at times. He seems far too good for Super League. And I think you can see why he was such a respected talent in the NRL. Obviously, I think injuries have kind of contributed to him coming over here. And I think if they can keep him fit, I mean, obviously he had the HIA earlier in the year, a couple of weeks ago, but if he can stay fit, then that left edge is going to be lethal. I think Tom Weaver going forward was very, very good as well. I think he had a bit of a rough day against Warrington, just with Kelepi Tanganoa scoring 4, but I think going forward, he was brilliant. I don't think you can pick out a poor Castleford player, and I think he speaks a lot to Ryan Kai. It takes a lot to try and get a team to bounce back. They'll all obviously want to, put their own best foot forward to, show that they've done something, because they know that what they put up against Warrington wasn't acceptable. But to actually, engage those changes and make the changes in a week, go score that many points, do it at home as well, which, they've got to try and re-engage that fan base, because I think that fan base could easily switch off. If they were to have lost that game, they could have really easily turned off. So I think it was a massive, massive win for Castleford. And I think going forward, obviously, they've got Wakefield this coming week in Rivals Weekend or Rivals Round. If they can get a win there as well, that's 2 massive wins to go in. So then they'll get a break with Challenge Cup. And I think, I'm not saying they're going to go make the 6, but I think their aim probably has to be top of those, promoted teams plus Huddersfield. That's kind of got to be their aim. And I think that's probably what their aim was last year. And we know it's a project at Castleford, so just think like that's probably what they've got to do. And I think if they play like that, then they'll go very well all year.
Yeah, let's just have a quick look at Rivals Round then. Obviously, things are set up perfectly for the Easter weekend. We'll start with St Helens and Wigan Warriors, obviously, as we've previously mentioned. both missing players, and I thought St Helens' lack of go forward on Friday night was pretty alarming, actually. Sam B, how do you see this one going?
Yeah, it's a weird one. It's not normal that you get a Good Friday Wigan Saints derby when both sides are coming in off a very poor loss, not just a loss, but a very poor performance. Yeah, I mean, I think with any rivals round and with Super League this season, I think it's just so hard to predict. As you can see in our predictions league that we've been running through this season, and yeah, I think Wigan.
I've been doing all right.
Yeah, I think Wigan set the edge. I think just yeah, I don't know. I think just Wigan. I've just got a feeling Wigan might edge this one, and yeah, they'll bounce back from that Wigan defeat. Matt Pete doesn't normally allow two performances of such poor standards. So I think Wigan will be the ones to bounce back this week.
Yeah, Sam C, do you think the pack issues at St Helens, do you think that could be a telling difference?
Yeah, probably. I think I've seen some of the stats about what the meters the forwards made, and they'll know it wasn't good enough. Again, speaking to the point about Castleford earlier, Castleford knew that their performance against Warrington wasn't good enough, and they really did bounce back. So I think there's something there. Obviously, it's a game that they're clearly going to get up for, being the derby, and I think they'll be up for it. I think Paul Rowley's a good enough coach to know where things went wrong. I'm not sure that he can make too many changes given just what's available to him, but I think it's probably a game where they'll know they've got to try and win it with a kicking game, given the fact that they do have so little in the pack. And I think Jackson Hastings has proven pretty good with the boot so far. So probably a Hastings game more than a pack game, but he needs to be able to play it off the back of something, whereas on Friday he just couldn't at all.
What's your prediction then?
I'll probably say I'm going to Wigan by 4, just.
Yeah, I'll back that. I'll go Wigan as well. Pete?
Don't care.
Okay. Hull KR, Hull FC, obviously that gets rivals round going on Good Friday. Look, we saw what a difference Craven Park makes. But Hull FC are coming in the back of 2 wins. Pete, can you give us anything on this one?
Yeah, interesting. I think it's at Craven Park, isn't it? I think Hull KR at home will obviously fancy it. They've played themselves into some form last week. That said, Hull on the back of 2 very good wins, both on their own turf, which is somewhere they've struggled over the past couple of seasons. So it could be a much better, more even contest than some of the recent derbies have been. I'd expect Hull KR to win it, but I wouldn't totally discount Hull in this one. They've got a poor recent record against their city neighbours, but they've shown signs in the last couple of weeks that maybe they're starting to get their act together a little bit. Obviously, injuries are still an issue for them. I would probably predict a Hull KR win, but not by a huge margin. I think Hull will give them a game, and that's what you want. It's one of the big derbies in the competition, and this long run of Hull KR winning and winning fairly comfortably, it would be good to see a more competitive game, and I think we'll get that this week.
Yeah, I think I'd second your opinion there. Look, I was at Hull FC yesterday. They're still missing a lot of players. The spine is still, it's still makeshift. And I was at Hull KR on Friday night as well, and I just find it hard to look past that team on home soil. So I'm going Rovers. Sam B, Sam C, where are you going for this one?
Yeah, I think Rovers have got too much there. I think Hull FC, their second half kind of showed, deficiencies, and I think if they don't start as fast as they did, then I think they could really struggle. I think one thing I just want to say about Hull FC is Brad Fash. Like, wow, where's that come from? Testimonial, yeah, he really just deserves some credit. So I just wanted to say that basically. But I still don't think it'll be enough for him to get the win on Friday. So I'll say home KR by probably 3 tries or so.
I think if you play this game 2 or 3 weeks ago, it's a very comfortable Hull KR win, even though that they've only just come into form themselves. But I think Hull FC kind of underperformed in that start to the season, maybe worse than KR did. But yeah, I think a really good game. It's just what Super League needs, and yeah, I'm backing Hull KR as well.
Go on, and Pete, tell us about Bradford Bulls versus Leeds Rhinos.
Bradford obviously coming off the back of that big defeat at Castleford, and they'll need a big improvement. At home, though, on that small pitch, it's going to be an occasion that's been marked in their diary for a long time. They also have a longer turnaround. They're going Thursday to the following Friday, whereas Leeds are going Sunday to Friday. That might have a bearing. I won't be surprised if Leeds maybe make 1 or 2 team changes, although they don't have a game the following week. They didn't handle the short turnaround when they played Wakefield in the Challenge Cup the other week. They didn't handle that very well. Bradford are going to have to tighten up their defence. If they defend out wide the way they did against Castleford, against Leeds, then Mike Acevo is going to score some tries. He got another hat-trick yesterday against Warrington, and they are going to struggle to deal with him. I think if they can get over that hurdle, they'll compete. Well, Bradford, they'll definitely be up for it. It's a test for Leeds. We're still not sure about Leeds, are we? They've shown what they're capable of. Fantastic in Vegas. I thought for most of yesterday's game they were very good. Poor first 25 minutes in really good conditions. And Warrington were unlucky not to be further in front than 12-8 at half-time. But Leeds showed some bottle, going 12-0 down and then pulled a couple of tries back before half-time and were the better team in the second half. I think Leeds are a better team than Bradford. If they play well, they'll win, but Bradford won't make it easy for them. It could be an interesting game, that one. I think it'll say quite a lot about both teams.
Yeah, I sort of agree. Just looking at the fixture, being at Odsal, I think is a massive element for it, and I think Bradford will be, they'll be up for it and they'll use their environment to their advantage. I still think Leeds win it, but I think I'm going to go for a drop goal. I don't know if that's in Golden Point or in the last 5 minutes or so, but I think it'll be a 1-point game. How do you see it, lads?
You think that Jake Connor, you're predicting Jake Connor to slot one over? Is that how you see it going?
Jake Connor, Brodie Croft, Lockie Miller, I'll edge my bets there.
I think I'm going to go out and say Bradford to win, to be honest. I think Oddfield massive. The turnaround that Pete mentioned as well is really significant. I think I've seen enough from Bradford at home this year where, they've just looked really, really good. Obviously the scoreline in the end at Castleford doesn't look great, but I think 28 of Castleford's 40 points scored within 13 minutes either side of half-time. Obviously Castleford were very good, but that 15-minute blip has cost them big time, and I think they know it's quite an easy area to isolate the game, sort of first 5 minutes before the half and then the first 10 minutes out of it. I think you can it's not, you can't just put it down to, we dropped off. You can say, well, look, lads, we've got to go for a full 40 and make sure we start quick. And I think that's something that Kurt Haggett can get out with his team. And I'm not sure if they get any more bodies coming back this week, but I just think the turnaround for Leeds, the Odsal factor, the fact that it is, we've seen these teams play in pre-season, but the fact it's the first big one in Super, I'm favouring Bradford.
Yeah, I think I'm sure Pete will share this, but the nightmare of the last time Leeds went to Odsal back in 2019 still is fresh in the memory. But yeah, I think I'll go Leeds. I think I'll back Leeds, and yeah, I don't think it'll be a pretty win, as it rarely is with Odsal and uniqueness of that stadium. I think the shortening the width of the pitch, I think that'll kind of disadvantage Micah Sevo. I think if Bradford can kind of get a few bodies over to his edge and kind of stop him that way, I think that kind of nullifies his threat. But yeah, I'll back Leeds with a 4-point win.
Yeah, they're probably the 3 biggest games this weekend. But just as a parting sort of gambit, Sambi, is anything else jump off the page for Saturday and Sunday for you?
I think Huddersfield have got a really good chance against York. Obviously, York started this season really well. But yeah, I think if Huddersfield can continue that form as they left Wigan on Saturday, I think that they're in a really good shout for a second win. I think it's at the Aku, which is a factor that could go either way. To be fair, because obviously Huddersfield's home form hasn't been great at the start of the last kind of 2 seasons really. But yeah, if they can continue that kind of new manager bounce and keep those spine players playing well, then I can see Huddersfield winning that one.
All right, yeah, we're all set for a corker of a weekend then, I think. If you go into a game, enjoy it. Can I ask you all to like this video and subscribe to the channel, please? And yeah, have a good Easter, everyone. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining us. Please like and share, and we'll see you next week.